There is a moment in life when staying quiet becomes louder than any shout. Your absence starts to carry more weight than your anger ever could, and your total indifference turns into your most dangerous tool. Today, we are exploring a massive shift in how you handle toxic people. When you treat a narcissist like they have completely vanished, you turn into their worst nightmare. This is not about getting revenge or carrying around heavy hate. It is about total emotional detachment. Think of a narcissist like a fire that lives entirely on the oxygen of your attention. Without that air, the flames simply shrink and eventually burn out. With your attention, they grow and consume everything in their path. Attention isn't just something they like. It is a psychological necessity for them to feel alive. They feed on your praise to fuel their ego, and they feed on your arguments to validate their sense of importance. Even when you are frustrated with them, you are giving them exactly what they want because you are proving that they still have the power to move you. In their twisted logic, a strong reaction from you means they are still the main character in your story. This is why being truly indifferent hits them harder than any argument. When you try to defend yourself or explain your side of the story, you are giving them exactly the fuel they need. You are signaling that their opinion still carries weight in your life. Even your tears can feel like a huge win to someone who thrives on control. Every single emotional spark you give them confirms that they still have influence over your world. Self-regulation is the real foundation of personal power. When you master your own reactions, you take the steering wheel of your life back. They expect you to fight back. They are waiting for your defense and your long-winded explanations, because that is what keeps the cycle alive. But when you offer them nothing, no anger, no tears, and no justification, you break their script. Silence becomes a wall they cannot climb. Calmness becomes your ultimate shield. Indifference acts like a mirror that shows them how empty they really are. They cannot manipulate someone who refuses to play their game. They might push harder at first, using more insults or trying to make you feel guilty or afraid. They do this because they can feel the air leaving the room. They are losing their supply, and that makes them panic internally. They rely on your energy to keep their fragile self-image stable. When you stop giving that energy away, they are forced to sit alone with their own insecurities. That is a terrifying place for them to be. You need to understand that where your focus goes, your energy flows. If you spend your days thinking about what they said or what they might do next. You are still paying their emotional bills. Stop investing that currency. Close the account they have been using for so long. Indifference isn't about being cold. It is about having crystal clear focus. You don't need to correct every lie or rush to defend your name anymore. You see the bait, you recognize the trap, and you simply refuse to take a bite. This shift changes the entire power structure of your relationship. Instead of letting them set the emotional temperature, you are now the one in charge. Instead of acting on impulse, you choose stillness. You stop trying to prove your worth to them because you finally start to embody it yourself. Hit that like button if you are ready to stop letting someone else drain your peace. And make sure to subscribe so we can keep building this path toward absolute freedom together. The initial stage of these relationships is always like a roller coaster. You feel that intense rush, the charm, and the feeling that you are finally seen and understood. You feel chosen, special, and incredibly lucky. But this intensity isn't a true bond. It is a trap. Before you know it, the script flips. Criticism takes the place of praise, and confusion replaces the clarity you once had. You find yourself trying harder and harder, loving more intensely, and constantly proving that you are good enough. You don't realize it, but you are not acting from a place of strength anymore. You are acting from a place of desperate attachment. This is the trauma bond. Your brain is being conditioned to chase unpredictable rewards, similar to how an addiction forms. You wait for the good version of them to come back, tolerating horrible treatment because you are clinging to a memory of who they were at the start. Your nervous system starts to fray. You are constantly on edge, overthinking every text, every tone of voice, and every facial expression. You blame yourself for their distance, thinking if you just did things differently, the harmony would return. This isn't love. It is raw conditioning. When you decide to act as if they are emotionally non-existent, you rip out the wiring of this neurological loop. You stop chasing the breadcrumbs of affection. You stop trying to decode their games. The addiction begins to starve because you have finally stopped feeding it. It will feel heavy and uncomfortable at first. You might feel a physical ache to check their social media or reach out for closure. That discomfort is not a sign that you need them. It is a sign that your body is finally healing and recalibrating. Breaking a deep dependency feels like a withdrawal, but it is the only way to get your life back. By refusing to engage, you give your brain the quiet it needs to stabilize. Your stress levels will drop. Your clarity will return. The fog that has been clouding your mind for months or years will finally lift, and the version of you that existed before the chaos will begin to surface, stronger, wiser, and much more aware. You will start to see the manipulation clearly, recognizing the patterns that you once thought were just misunderstandings. You will stop looking for the fantasy and start seeing the hard reality. This clarity is what kills the attachment once and for all. This is the exact moment power shifts back into your hands. They might try to reel you back in with fake apologies or grand promises. But without emotional access, their tactics lose all their power. The cycle can't restart unless you give them permission to step back into your life. Breaking the bond isn't about hate. It is about reclaiming your autonomy. It is about realizing that chaos is not passion and that emotional intensity is not the same thing as intimacy. The moment you stop reacting to their highs and lows, the roller coaster grinds to a halt. When the machine finally stops moving, you can finally step off and walk away for good. Control is the hidden currency in every one of these toxic dynamics. It is not always obvious, but it is everywhere. In the subtle jabs, the manufactured guilt, and the calculated kindness. They don't want to understand you. They want to influence you. They want to control how you feel, how you make decisions, and how you see your own worth. When someone has the power to shape your mood, they feel powerful. That control only works if they have access to you. If they can reach you, they can hurt you. A single message can ruin your day, or a casual comment can make you doubt yourself. Every time you react, you are handing them the keys to your emotions. When you treat them as if they are just another person who no longer matters, you revoke that access forever. You stop explaining yourself. You stop justifying your boundaries. You stop trying to fix their false stories about you. You just detach. When they provoke you and you give them nothing, their strategy collapses. If they criticize you and you don't even flinch, the tactic fails. Predictability is another trap they use. But when you become steady and unbothered, you become impossible to read. That unpredictability ruins their plans. They will escalate, but remember that their drama is just a sign of desperation. When their control slips, their insecurity takes over. True power doesn't need to shout or threaten. When you stop engaging, you aren't quitting. You are choosing your own peace. You are proving that your emotions are yours alone. Keep going, keep focusing on your own growth, and remember that no one is worth the price of your own sanity. You are the architect of your own peace, and you don't need anyone's permission to be happy. At the center of all narcissistic behavior is a deeply fragile self-concept hidden behind a massive wall of false pride. What looks like unshakable confidence is usually just deep compensation, and what feels like superiority is actually terror disguised as arrogance. Their entire identity relies on external approval, how they are viewed, how much they are feared, and whether or not they are the center of attention. Their reputation is their shield, and attention is proof that they exist. When you criticize them, it wounds them deeply, but at least it proves they matter to you. When you fight with them, it angers them, but it keeps them right at the center of your world. Even hatred tells them that they occupy space in your mind. But total indifference does something terrifying to them. It erases them completely. It sends the message without a single word that they no longer exist in your universe. Being forgotten is their absolute worst nightmare. When you stop talking about them, stop fighting their lies, and stop reacting to their stories, you take away their stage. They might throw public tantrums, play the victim, or spin wild rumors just to get a reaction. Not because they are strong, but because being invisible feels like psychological death to someone who feeds on validation. Positive attention is always their favorite, but negative attention will do just fine as long as it means you are looking at them. Silence, however, gives them nothing. No reflection, no fuel, and no proof that they still hold any power over you. When you treat them like they are emotionally non-existent, you force them to look in the mirror, which is the one thing they try to avoid at all costs. Without an audience to applaud or fear them, the internal void opens up, and that emptiness is excruciating for them. They might pop back up out of nowhere with sweet apologies or sudden tales of success, just to grab your eye again. If you reply even a little bit, the door swings back open. But if you hold the line of absolute indifference, the message is undeniable. The show is over. Finding closure doesn't require a mutual agreement or a final conversation where they finally admit they were wrong. You do not need them to validate your pain or explain their cruelty. Your silence is your final statement. Choosing not to engage is a radical, beautiful act of self-respect. It proves that your inner peace is worth more than their endless drama. And once someone who used to rule your entire emotional world becomes an afterthought, there is no going back. Emotional intelligence is never about being weak or rolling over to accept disrespect. It is about total awareness, strict self-regulation, and making conscious choices. It is the ability to feel a wave of emotion without letting that wave sweep you away. In toxic relationships, your empathy is treated like a weapon against you. Your patience is stretched until it snaps, and your love is twisted into a leash. You start reacting instead of choosing your moves, speaking out of pure exhaustion and defending yourself from deep hurt. Step by step, you lose the quiet clarity that used to define who you are. When you finally choose to detach, that clarity comes rushing back. Instead of falling into their traps, you pause. Instead of getting dragged into an argument, you watch from a safe distance. Instead of absorbing their toxic words, you decide whether their opinion deserves a single square inch of your mind. This shift from blind reaction to intentional response is the core of true maturity. It means you are no longer a puppet waiting for someone else to pull the strings. When someone tries to push your buttons and you stay completely calm, you unlock a level of personal power that rattles people who rely on chaos. They don't know what to do with someone who refuses to fight back. Drop a comment below if this resonates with your journey, and make sure you subscribe so we can keep breaking free from these cycles together. Stepping into true authority means you stop standing in a permanent defensive stance. You stop over-explaining your choices. You stop begging people to see your good intentions. And you stop hoping that if you just say things the right way, they will finally understand you. True authority doesn't beg for clarity. When you treat them as if they are emotionally gone, you stop chasing validation from the exact source that broke you. You stop waiting around for apologies that are never coming. You realize that true closure is an inside job built by you and for you, rather than something you negotiate with someone who enjoys hurting you. A victim waits for an apology. An authority figure creates peace within themselves. When you step into this power, you stop letting their warped perception dictate your self-worth. If they call you cold, you don't scramble to prove how warm you are. If they call you selfish, you don't bend over backward to show your generosity. You know your own heart, and your truth doesn't need their stamp of approval to be real. This drives them crazy because they built their entire dynamic on making you question your own memory, your sanity, and your worth. Reclaiming your authority breaks that spell completely. You start trusting your gut again. You trust your boundaries without needing to write a speech to defend them. You trust your decision to walk away without replaying it 1,000 times in your head. You stop performing. You aren't acting strong to show off, and you aren't acting indifferent to hurt them. You are simply living your life with quiet, unshakable resolve. Authority doesn't need to yell. It doesn't threaten to leave. It just walks out the door. It doesn't repeat its boundaries 100 times. It sets them once and enforces them forever. When you carry this energy, the toxic game falls apart because there is nothing left for them to manipulate. You are no longer looking for fairness from someone whose entire existence depends on imbalance. And you are no longer waiting for empathy from a person who stores it away. You move forward with grace, entirely cut off from their reach. That is what true independence looks like. It is the moment you step off the emotional roller coaster forever, knowing with absolute certainty that no one else holds the keys to your reality. Hit that subscribe button right now if you are ready to claim your freedom. Drop a comment with your biggest takeaway from today, and let's keep walking this powerful road toward total peace together.